The Jedi Order, as the galaxy knew it, stood at the precipice of transformation long before the fateful events of Order 66. The constant wars, the politics of the Galactic Senate, and the growing chasm between their ancient principles and the demands of a crumbling galaxy left the Jedi questioning their role. It was not an overnight decision, nor one made lightly, but a culmination of fear, doubt, and a desire for preservation. Tython, the fabled birthplace of the Jedi, offered a promise of renewal, a sanctuary far from the chaos and temptations of Coruscant and the clone wars that raged across the galaxy. The Jedi Masters had always prided themselves on their ability to remain impartial and balanced, yet even their wisdom could not prevent the creeping influence of war. The Clone Wars, a conflict orchestrated by forces far beyond their comprehension at the time, had corroded the Jedi's standing in the galaxy. Where once they were seen as guardians of peace, many now regarded them as generals of war. Their alliances with the Republic, their reliance on the Jedi Council's increasingly political decisions, and their willingness to lead armies made them appear less like the impartial mediators they claimed to be. Even within their own order, murmurs of discontent grew louder. Younger Jedi questioned the ethics of their role, while veterans longed for the serenity that seemed to be slipping from their grasp. The tipping point came not from one catastrophic event, but a series of revelations that exposed how far the Jedi had drifted from their roots. The growing dark side presence, felt by the most attuned of masters, hinted at a threat they could not yet name. The Senate's corruption, symbolized in figures like Chancellor Palpatine, raised doubts about the Republic's viability as a force for good. Whispers of discontent from the Outer Rim spoke to the suffering of countless worlds abandoned by both the Republic and the Jedi Order. The Jedi found themselves trapped in a web of allegiances they no longer trusted, burdened by a war they could not win. Master Yoda, ever the soul of the Order, convened the Council to discuss the future. His voice, though cautious, carried the weight of millennia of wisdom. Mired in war we are, lost the true path has become. A step back, perhaps the only way forward is. Others echoed his sentiment. Mace Windu, once a staunch defender of Jedi involvement in the Republic, admitted that their position as military leaders had compromised their ideals. Mundi, Shaak Ti, and others debated furiously, but a consensus emerged. Remaining on Coruscant was no longer tenable. The decision to retreat to Tython was shrouded in secrecy. Few outside the Council were privy to the exact reasoning, though the decision was framed as a strategic withdrawal. The Jedi knew they could not abandon their allies entirely, but they resolved to remove themselves from the Republic's control. This was not an abdication of their duty, but a redefinition of it. Their mission would focus on rediscovering their spiritual core, honing their connection to the Force, and preparing for whatever darkness loomed on the horizon. Tython called to them for more than its historical significance. The planet was deeply tied to the Force, its surface dotted with ancient temples and mysteries that predated the Jedi Order itself. Its isolation provided security, while its raw, untamed energy offered a chance for the Jedi to reconnect with the natural rhythms of the Force. Though the journey was perilous, as hyperspace routes to Tython were unstable, the Order moved swiftly and silently. Jedi scattered across the galaxy were recalled, missions were abandoned, and the temple on Coruscant was left in the care of a skeleton crew. The Jedi did not flee out of cowardice, but out of necessity. Life on Tython was not easy. The planet's wilderness demanded physical resilience, and its potent Force energies challenged even the most disciplined minds. Yet the Jedi thrived, finding solace in the simplicity of their surroundings. Masters and Padawans alike devoted themselves to meditation, sparring, and the study of ancient texts. For the first time in decades, there was no Senate to answer to, no war to fight, and no politics to navigate. Instead, there was only the Force. As time passed, the Jedi began to rediscover aspects of their identity that had been buried beneath the weight of their obligations. The teachings of balance, compassion, and humility took on new significance. New philosophies emerged, blending ancient wisdom with the harsh lessons of the Clone Wars. Some Jedi even began to question the rigidity of the Order's traditional code, suggesting a more flexible approach to attachment and emotion. This was not without controversy, but the debates were civil, guided by a shared sense of purpose. The Jedi's retreat did not go unnoticed. The Republic faltered without the Order's guidance, and rumors of their disappearance spread rapidly. Palpatine, ever the opportunist, seized the moment to consolidate power, portraying the Jedi as deserters who had abandoned their sacred duty. Many in the galaxy believed him, their faith in the Jedi already shaken by years of war. Others, particularly those in the Outer Rim, saw the Jedi's departure as a tacit admission of the Republic's corruption. Reactions were as varied as the stars, but one truth remained constant: the galaxy was changing. For the Jedi, however, these external concerns mattered less than the task at hand. On Tython, they found the space to prepare, to heal, and to dream of a better future. Yet even in this refuge, they knew their time was limited. The dark side still loomed, its shadow stretching across the galaxy. The Sith, though still hidden, had not been vanquished, and the Jedi sensed that their greatest challenge was yet to come. Whether they would rise to meet it or fade into history remained uncertain, but for now, they held to the hope that by rediscovering their essence, they could one day return to the galaxy as the beacons of light they were meant to be. As the stars turned over Tython, the Jedi meditated not on their failures, but on their potential. The Force, ever a guide, reminded them that even in retreat, there was power. They had left Coruscant, the Republic, and the war behind, but they had not abandoned their calling. They had simply chosen a new path, one rooted in the belief that to save the galaxy, they first had to save themselves. Months passed on Tython, and the Jedi adapted to their new reality. Though the echoes of war still haunted many, the tranquil environment of the planet offered a reprieve. Master Yoda, who had once walked the marbled halls of the temple on Coruscant, now led meditations under Tython's twin moons. The natural rhythms of the planet, with its unpredictable storms and serene valleys, mirrored the complexities of the Force itself. It was a place of contrasts, demanding both patience and adaptability. The Jedi saw this as an opportunity to reconnect with the essence of the Force beyond the teachings of the Order. In their years on Coruscant, so much of their time had been consumed by the mundane responsibilities of governance and conflict. Now, with only the Force as their guide, they delved into the ancient ruins scattered across Tython. These relics of a bygone era spoke of a time when Force users were not divided into Jedi and Sith, but explored the balance between light and dark. The writings and holocrons they uncovered challenged their preconceptions and sparked debates among the Order scholars. One of the most profound discoveries came from a ruined temple deep within a forest shrouded in perpetual mist. There, an artifact known as the Galactic Codex was found, containing the musings of ancient Force sages who had walked the line between the two polarities of the Force. This codex proposed that attachment, often shunned by the Jedi, could be a source of strength if approached with mindfulness and discipline. It suggested that fear of the dark side had led the Jedi to sever themselves from a fuller understanding of the Force's potential. These ideas were controversial, particularly among more traditional Jedi like Master Windu, who argued that such thoughts risked inviting corruption. Yet others, like Ahsoka Tano, who had recently reconnected with the Order after her time away, found wisdom in the notion of balance. She spoke passionately about how her own struggles had taught her the value of forging connections while maintaining her individuality. The debates were heated but respectful, and for the first time in years, the Jedi felt a sense of intellectual and spiritual growth that had been absent during their years of war. The younger members of the Order flourished in this environment. Without the looming presence of war, Padawans were free to explore their abilities and passions. Training sessions became less rigid, encouraging creativity and individual expression. Lightsaber forms evolved, blending combat efficiency with artistry. The Jedi rediscovered the joy of learning, unburdened by the expectations of a galaxy that had demanded so much from them. Still, the specter of their past lingered. They knew the galaxy had not forgotten them, and neither had their enemies. Palpatine, now Emperor, had declared the Jedi traitors and initiated a relentless propaganda campaign to solidify his power. The galaxy's holonets buzzed with tales of Jedi conspiracies, painting their retreat to Tython as an admission of guilt. Yet the Jedi refrained from responding, choosing silence over escalation. Their absence, however, did not shield them from the Emperor's reach. The Sith Lord had not underestimated the Jedi's potential to one day rise against him. Even in their retreat, they posed a threat to his plans. In secret, he dispatched agents to locate their hidden sanctuary. Meanwhile, Darth Vader, once Anakin Skywalker and now his enforcer, carried out a relentless hunt for remnants of the Order across the galaxy. On Tython, the Jedi felt the tremors of this pursuit through the Force but remained undetected for the time being. Despite the immediate threat, the Jedi found themselves debating their long-term role in the galaxy. Could they remain on Tython indefinitely, or would they have to re-engage with the galaxy at some point? Some, like Yoda, believed that their self-imposed exile was temporary, a chance to regain clarity before returning to restore balance. Others, particularly those who had grown disillusioned with the Republic, argued for a more permanent detachment. They saw their mission as one of spiritual enlightenment, a torchbearer for a future that might take centuries to realize. Tensions between these factions simmered but never boiled over. The trials of Tython, its harsh conditions, its raw Force energies, ensured that survival required cooperation. The Jedi worked together to build a community grounded in mutual respect and shared purpose. They constructed simple dwellings, grew their own food, and learned to live in harmony with the planet. The act of working with their hands, of contributing to a communal existence, was humbling and therapeutic. It reminded them of the value of simplicity in a galaxy often consumed by excess. Occasionally, news from the wider galaxy would trickle in. Smugglers, refugees, and traders, unaware of the Jedi's presence, would land on Tython's surface seeking shelter or supplies. The Jedi often hid in the shadows during these visits, revealing themselves only when absolutely necessary. Through these brief encounters, they learned of the tightening grip of the Empire, the suffering of countless worlds, and the rebellion beginning to stir in whispers. These stories weighed heavily on the Jedi, who knew that their decision to retreat had left a void in the galaxy's fight against tyranny. As the years passed, the Jedi began to prepare for the inevitable. They trained tirelessly, knowing that one day the Empire would find them. While some viewed this preparation as a means of defense, others saw it as a way to ensure they could re-enter the galaxy as protectors, not warriors. They envisioned a future where the Jedi were no longer beholden to politics or war, but instead served as guides and guardians for all beings, irrespective of allegiance or creed. The younger generation of Jedi, shaped by Tython's lessons, became the embodiment of this vision. They were less burdened by the dogma of the past, more attuned to the nuances of the Force, and deeply committed to unity. These Jedi, led by figures like Ahsoka and a rejuvenated Yoda, symbolized hope for a new era. Yet they knew that before they could build that future, they would have to confront the darkness that had driven them into hiding.